Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to show you how to make a paper feather and also offer a few frugal card making tips. Okay, so the first thing I did was I took a 12 by 12 piece of paper and I used an envelope template to make an envelope, and I had this huge piece left over. I used the Create-A-Lope template from Green Sneakers to make that. And so then I punched out a bunch of holes and I embossed them with embossing powder. I have a video, we'll put the link below if you want to check that out, and how to make these little fake enamel dots. So I did that with some of the scraps. And then today I'm going to show you how to make a feather. So basically you can kind of look around and select an area that you really like. Like this area kind of already looks kind of feathery, so I think what I'll do is just kind of cut some of that out, just so I have an area to work from. And then I am basically just going to freehand cut the shape of a feather, which is going to be pretty easy. I'm going to put a couple little kind of little barbs down here, so it kind of has that natural feather look, how they're not all pointed in the same direction. But then I'm just going to kind of cut out almost a leaf shape. I was calling my feather a leaf yesterday in my DIY enamel dots video. I didn't notice it until after I played it back, and I'm like, oh, I'm glad that, you know, people didn't give me a hard time about that, because some people do give me a hard time about how I pronounce things, but you know what? When you've lived in Maine your entire life, I think it's just a miracle that anyone can understand me. Alright, so then I'm just going to cut off my little, and so there, that already kind of looks like a feather just because of the pattern on the paper. Now I have used fringe scissors to cut all the fringes out, but you don't really get that much control from it. So what I'm going to do is just cut, and I'm not cutting right on the lines, I'm just cutting fringes here as I go. When I ink it up, you'll be able to see it quite a bit better. So I'm just cutting slits probably about every 1/8 of an inch or so. If you're going to make like a ton of these, maybe, you know, and you weren't too particular about how they came out, you could use, you know, fringing scissors. It would save you a little time, but you do lose your preciseness. So it all depends, you know, if you're making them for a banner or some big wall art, you wouldn't necessarily even notice that things weren't that precise. Alright, and then, so now if I fluff these apart, you can see the little, that I have these little barbs. And then what you want to do is go in through and trim off kind of at an angle, so so they kind of stand out from one another. So if you, it's actually kind of hard to see with this paper. Just kind of cut the edges off on some of them just to give them a little bit of a frayed, if you can you see that? You know, a little bit of a more of a frayed look there. So just kind of go through and snip a few off at an angle, a few of the barbs off at an angle. Just gives you a little bit more of a natural look there. You can do that to the other side as well. You don't want it to look too perfect. If it looks too perfect, then it won't look natural. And you can do this with whatever. I'm trying to decide whether I like them going, at what angle I like them going at. I think I like them going at this angle. And you can do this with whatever paper you have. You can use solid paper. You can use textured or pattern paper. You can get dyes that will do this, but it's really, the nice thing about this is you can make it exactly the size you want. It doesn't really take a lot of work, and it's kind of a fun trend. And then the thing about trends, that, you know, once the trend's done, you know, if feathers are really big and then you bought all these dyes and you bought these stamps, of course I say that I have feather stamps that are like 10 years old. I love feather stamps. You know, you're not really left with anything, you know, that after it's trendy, you haven't like bought a bunch of stuff and then you're left with it. So let's just push that out of the way. And then you can see that looks like a pretty cool feather. Let me zoom in just a little bit. Okay, now to bring it out a little bit, sometimes what I like to do, this has like I kind of use the pattern of the paper so that it would have that, that kind of spine down the center, but you could ink that if you wanted to. I don't think I will, just because it worked out really well that fell on that shape like that. But you could fold it and ink it. I think I just want to ink the edges a little bit. You can see on the back too how well that shape came out. I just want to give the edges a little bit of an inking. Kind of pick up some of the detail there. And then I'm going to put it on a little card that I prepared. And if you prefer a clean look, you can do that as well. I just wanted to make sure you could really see what I had cut. So we'll put this on a card. I just made a took a half a sheet of paper, cut it the hot dog way, so it was long, you know, like that, folded it in half, rounded the corners, and put it in a little panel like this. So I'm just going to glue that down with my hot glue, and I'm just going to glue it on the spine in the middle so the edges can kind of poke up and be dimensional. I always have my hot glue gun going. And then I'm going to embellish it with these little dots that I made with a leftover bits of paper. So I you know, I did do this ahead of time so I'd have it so I could show you. And look, you can do that with pattern paper too. You don't have to be limited with just plain. I'm going to glue this down with white glue after the video, after I've shut the camera off, but I'm just placing them down so you can get an idea of the look of the final card. I like to make coordinating envelopes and cards, and this works out really great when you make your envelope first, because then you have everything that matches. And really, you used half a sheet of cardstock for the card base, you used a quarter of a sheet for the panel, and you used one sheet of pattern paper, and that's it. And you know, you could easily make sets of cards like this to sell at craft fairs or in your booth at an antique market, but not everybody does that. You know, you can easily adapt these to sell or just have on hand for when you need a card. So there you have it, how to make a paper feather with no fancy dies or anything. And I'll show you again my matching envelope, and I did the same thing with this tag from yesterday. You know, just have fun, try this technique out. I think you'll really enjoy it. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you like this video. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.